Will you stop shouting? You're scaring the bears. I'm sorry, what? The bears. You're scaring them. Stop making those noises. This exchange happened at a zoo in Anchorage, Alaska in August of 2014. Now, to be clear, this woman's unsolicited feedback wasn't an aberration from the norm for me. I was diagnosed in 6th grade, so I've had to deal with interactions like these for most of my life. The timing of this particular exchange, though, it stung. And it stung because it happened at the tail end of one of the most transformative summers of my life. I had spent the 70 days leading up to that afternoon biking more than 4,000 miles on a bicycle, not a motorcycle, from Austin, Texas to Anchorage, Alaska, the world's longest charity bike ride. Around every switchback in the Ozarks, through every cornfield in the Midwest, and up every peak in the Canadian Rockies, I listened to stories. Stories shared with me by my teammates as we rode, stories shared by host families in their living rooms, and stories shared by complete strangers in gas station parking lots. Their stories inspired me to reflect on my own. And it was through that deep, hard reflection that I learned how to love my story. Now, I'm still figuring out how to tell my story, but I made a lot of progress that summer. Progress that the woman from the zoo couldn't have been more disinterested in. No, she was worried about the bears. Tourette's is a neurological condition characterized by involuntary vocal outbursts or motor spasms called tics. And it typically stems from dysfunctional basal ganglia, a group of subcortical nuclei buried deep in the cerebral hemispheres of the brain, responsible in part for motor and vocal decision-making. Now, for those of you who don't have Tourette's, and statistically speaking, that's the majority of you, let me break that down. Think about the last time you were working in a quiet coffee shop. Chances are you didn't break the silence in that coffee shop by shouting unintentionally. Think about the last time you were taking handwritten notes, either in class or on a call. Chances are you didn't put pen to paper with such unintentional force that the pen's ink bled through the page. Think about the last time you were hand in hand with someone else, be it a friend, a family member, or a romantic partner. Chances are you didn't send guilt-inducing pain through that person's hand by unintentionally squeezing their fingers in between yours. And the reason you didn't do any of these things is because the nuclei in your basal ganglia are sending inhibitory signals through the thalamus and into the cerebral cortex to suppress those unwanted actions. You can picture the nuclei saying, "Don't shout at the coffee shop. Don't slam the pen down. Don't squeeze their fingers." I, on the other hand, have done these things. In fact, I still do a lot of these things today. You see, my brain isn't quite as reliable at suppressing those unwanted actions. Tourette's is tricky in that there's still a lot that the medical community doesn't know about the condition, primarily because it shows up in disparate and nuanced ways. Tics certainly aren't consistent across folks with Tourette's, and seldom are they consistent for a single person with Tourette's. I woke up one morning in middle school making hiccup-like noises I couldn't control. These hiccups grew in both intensity and frequency and were eventually accompanied by throat clearing and nose blowing. I've had more than 24 types of tics since I was diagnosed. Some have come and gone. Others have remained inconveniently loyal. Middle school was pretty forlorn for me. As if the psychological and biological turmoil that characterizes puberty wasn't enough as is, I had been thrown the world's nastiest curveball. And rather than squaring my shoulders to home plate and swinging at that curveball, I stepped away from the batter's box because that was the easy thing to do. I relinquished my seat at the front of the classroom. I walked along the edges of the hallways in complete silence. And I declined invitations to birthday parties, which were admittedly far and few between for a middle schooler with Tourette's, because I didn't want the few friends I did have knowing just how different I was. I just wanted to feel like I belonged. We all do, right? 3 years after my diagnosis, my mom sat me down the summer before I started high school and said, "Kevin, I know middle school was tough, but high school doesn't have to be that way. You can keep living under this rock, and I know that's the safe and comfortable thing to do, and no one would blame you for it. Or you can climb to the top of that rock and start owning the things that make you, you." My mom was right. I have Tourette's, but Tourette's doesn't have me. Tourette's is one of many parts of me. And it's a part of me I've grown to appreciate over the years. You know, there's a lot that makes you, you as well. Neurodiversity refers to the many intricate and complex ways in which the human brain differs from one person to the next. Sometimes those differences are subtle, and other times they are frustratingly pronounced. But they're always there, and they always make us stronger. And it's for that reason that each of us has a vested interest in creating a world in which neurodiversity, our differences, are both appreciated and celebrated. And there are 3 things that we can do together, today and every day, to help cultivate that world, to help normalize what is truly quite normal. First, question first impressions. By definition, they're based off limited sets of data. As humans, we are wired to categorize people, places, and things. Safe or not safe. Same or different. Likable or not likable. Now, I'm not asking you to refrain from having first impressions or making snap judgments altogether. I am, however, asking you to question their accuracy. And in doing so, whether you know it or not, you are acknowledging that there is always more to someone's story. Which leads me to point number 2. learn someone's story. Learn everyone's story. And learn stories by having tough conversations, by asking thoughtful questions, by doing research and sharing what you learn with others. Learning stories can be hard. It can be taxing and exhausting and time-consuming, but it is always worth it. So roll up your sleeves and put in the time and read other people's stories with grace and empathy, with compassion and curiosity. You might just learn something. And third, actively expand your in-group. We're inherently drawn to folks who are similar to us. We find immense amounts of comfort in homogeneity. But we learn and grow when we're surrounded by folks who aren't like us, when we're surrounded by folks who look, act, think, pray, love, and yes, even navigate zoos differently than we do. So lean into that discomfort. Embrace that uncertainty. Push those boundaries. Everyone wants to feel like they belong. So let's make them feel like they belong. If someone came up to me today and said that with a wave of their magic wand, they could send me back to 6th grade and I could live my life free of Tourette's, I wouldn't consider it, not even for a second. Sure, it'd be more convenient, but having Tourette's has shaped who I am as a person. It's colored the lens through which I view the world. And it's informed how I treat the people I'm lucky enough to navigate this beautifully diverse world with. You might scare the bears every now and then, and that's okay. Your story is uniquely yours, and my story is uniquely mine. So let's keep writing and sharing our stories with this world, and let's do that together.